My name is Jasmine, and I've been in isolation for 165 days. Yeah. I'm one of those individuals we refer to today as the vulnerable or high risk. I look pretty healthy, but I have a rare genetic disorder called Fanconi Anemia. This condition impacts the body in a lot of different ways, but like COVID-19, we don't know enough about it. With today being International Fanconi Anemia Awareness Day, I wanted to take a second and share a bit of my story, because all of our stories are a bit different. We found out something was wrong in 2004. See, I wasn't a sick kid. I was a normal kid until I went to my pediatrician for my 13-year-old booster shot. At the time, they had just started doing regular blood work. And that was our first sign something was wrong. So they sent me to a hematologist and oncologist, a blood and cancer doctor, and after a bone marrow biopsy, they diagnosed me with aplastic anemia, which is bone marrow failure with a strong chance I would develop leukemia. I thought that was the worst of it. But 3 years later, my family relocated to Fort Myers and I met a new hematologist, Dr. MacArthur, who decided to test me for this rare condition. And sure enough, it came back positive for FA. But before my diagnosis appointment, my doctor had reached out to an incredible organization who sent over a free handbook to guide us through this disease. When he handed my mother this handbook, he immediately urged us to stay off Google and only read what was in this book, because they were the ones doing the research and had all the right answers. Plus, Google would just freak us out. Between you and I, my mother was already freaked out, and she did what everybody did. Googled it. Born with physical abnormalities, organ defects, bone marrow failure, increased chance of developing tumors, and all types of cancers. At the time, they told us most patients didn't make it to adulthood, and the average life expectancy was 22. I was 16 years old. I had all sorts of plans for my future. Things I wanted to do, places I wanted to go, the career I wanted to pursue. But from that moment on, my life as I knew it would never be the same. Steve Jobs said, "You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards." Looking back on that day, although I was young, I had made a crucial decision to fight back and chase after all the things I was passionate about, despite what little time we assumed I had left. That was 12 years ago. I'm now 28. I made it to adulthood. I'm officially adulting, very well, might I add. I finished school. I have my own home. I have incredible friends. I travel. I'm a published photographer. And for the past 5 years, I've worked at Apple alongside the Coconut Point team as their operations specialist. Now, my Apple family has seen me through some tough times, because when you have this disease, no one goes unscratched. I've had tumor scares, cancer scares. It even took my ability to have children. But the hardest battle came last year, July 17th, when my bone marrow reached the point of no return, and it required me to go through a bone marrow transplant. For those of you who aren't familiar with this process, let me fill you in. A bone marrow transplant is where they essentially kill your entire immune system with radiation and chemo while maintaining organ function. You're kept in isolation first in the hospital until your body is strong enough to go from one bird cage to a slightly bigger bird cage for a minimum of 100 days. This is required because you're extremely vulnerable when they give you the stem cells from a donor-related, or in my case, a 25-year-old stranger from Germany. Those stem cells begin to create a new immune system. So it needs a little protected time to develop. This entire process was the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life. First, chemo and radiation isn't a good time. I was sick. I lost all my hair. I was in so much pain, I was on a pain pump. I had sores from my mouth to down my throat that made it impossible for me to eat, so I received all my nutrients through an IV. And honestly, most of those days kind of blurred together. The isolation itself, that also took a huge toll on me. As most of you currently are experiencing, isolation's hard. You lose your routine. You miss your family and friends. Hell, You miss waking up and going to work every day. It was even harder for me because I was watching my family and friends continue living their life while I was just trying to stay alive. However, during that time, there were a few things that kept my spirits up. My caregiver, who was my mom, who took care of me, forced me outside to go on walks every day, and when I needed to, she held space for me to cry. My mother was my hero. But what was a surprising helping hand was the videos, the messages, and the gifts I received from my little Apple family. It was those actions that fueled fire in me to face whatever complication came my way, and there were a few. Individuals who go through this process have so many possible complications. Your body can straight up reject the donor. You can get graft versus host disease, which is where the donor cells literally attack your body and try to shut you down. And with COVID-19, we all know how deadly viruses can be. On top of that, the older you are, the more challenging and risky a transplant becomes. But I'm here, 275 days out, living the best life I can because of the research that came before me and continued after my diagnosis. That research wouldn't be here without the incredible work of the Fanconi Anemia Research Fund. They have funded millions of dollars of research over the past 35 years. They provide guidebooks to help navigate treatment of the disease to doctors and patients, and they host annual family meetings for children and adults to meet one another, receive counseling, and get updated information on the disease. But none of this work can happen without individuals like yourself coming together and raising awareness about this complicated disease. You help provide scientists and doctors the resources they need to keep advancing science to help people like myself grow up and live our dreams. So today, we're going the distance for Fanconi Anemia by doing a virtual awareness walk. You can walk, run, rollerblade, bike, doesn't matter. Just get out there and go the distance for FA. And for those of you who can't walk safely or go outside, don't worry, we got you covered with Create for FA. Like I mentioned earlier, going through transplant or a cancer treatment is hard, but the little things like a card or some really cool inspiring artwork can go a long way. So we're creating for those patients in need. Let's bring them hope. Let's show them that we're in their corner. My mother always said, stay as healthy as you can for as long as you can, so that science has the chance to catch up. On behalf of all patients and families fighting this battle, thank you for joining this mission today and giving science the opportunity to catch up. You truly are the Bruce Waynes of this world. And for those of you who don't speak nerd, I just called you Batman because you're the heroes in the shadows. Thank you.